Right, we're now joined by Tom Russell. He is General Counsel of Genius Sports. Welcome to Bloomberg Technology, Tom. And first of all, March Madness almost coming to an end here in America when it comes to the three-week extravaganza of basketball. More money seems to be being placed on this. Are you intrigued? Are you show some optimism to the amounts of money that are being put towards sports gaming?
Well, we're certainly interested as a company that works extensively in sports betting. I think what's interesting about the amount of money that we're seeing moving on March Madness is that it remains to be moving on unregulated markets because, just to give you some context here, betting remains unregulated in the United States outside a few examples, including Nevada. So most of the money that is being bet offshore, on offshore websites, which means that money's moving outside of the United States. And that raises a number of interesting questions, particularly for sport, because sports can't always tell where that money is being placed and how it's being placed. And that's obviously very different to the market in the United Kingdom, where sports betting is regulated and measured by the government.
When we're seeing it move offshore, a lot of it is, of course, online gaming that we're seeing. How much more predominant is the online betting scene becoming?
Well, obviously, online gambling has grown hugely in the last few years. That's partly led by the new technology that allows in-game betting, which is very big in Europe and something that we at Genius Sports work extensively in. What in-game betting does is drives a huge demand for data, and we at Genius Sports have developed an innovative data product whereby we can measure betting on sport. Of course, the only way that you can actually have very accurate betting of monitoring on sport and the amount of money that's moving on it is where you have regulation and transparency, which is something we're yet to see in the United States.
Data. The more data we have, the more computers, algorithms can be starting to play this as well. Maybe not everyone out there is a human that's placing their bets, but are we starting to see computers at work? Are we starting to see artificial intelligence play its way as well?
Absolutely. I mean, we at Genius Sports have a product where we measure what the betting markets, what we expect the betting markets to be doing in line with the algorithms that are proprietary to Genius Sports, and we measure those against, in real time, on a second-by-second basis, what the actual betting markets are doing. And what that really importantly allows sports to do is be able to see where there is unusual activity on the betting. So we can identify in real time where the betting activity is deviating from the algorithm of what we expect, and that means that sports have a very accurate view of where there may be potential issues on their betting markets. But again, obviously, as I said earlier, the challenge of that in the United States for US sports is that there isn't any regulation yet in the United States of sports betting.
How big a challenge is security, potential fraud when it comes to betting? How often are these irregular cases arising in the UK that is regulated, and how much could it be even more predominant here in the United States?
Well, they're mercifully rare. They're not common. However, I think when we're talking about corruption, which is what we mean here, we need to understand that betting exists in the sports betting in the United States exists now. It's happening every day. I mean, I've seen estimates of hundreds of billions of dollars a year being bet on sports betting websites outside the United States. The challenge that creates, of course, is it's very difficult to measure how that activity is taking place. It's very difficult to know where there is fraud or corruption taking place. What we try and do is create transparency, but that's difficult to do until you have clear regulation.
Do you see any changes in the way that the US is looking to regulate this particular area, and will we see Sports Genius coming over to the US, or indeed working more rather than with the offshore betting that we see the money move towards?
Sure. I mean, we are in conversations regularly with the US sports, and I think it's something that they're looking at constantly. The NBA commissioner has recently been quoted as saying that he thought some form of betting regulation was inevitable, and other sports commissioners have also made certain pronouncements that they think that maybe the wind is changing in the United States. But this isn't something that's going to happen tomorrow. I mean, it's going to take time. But as far as we at Genius Sports are concerned, we see ourselves as an advisor to the sports industry, really, and we can take the experience that we have in Europe and in the United Kingdom with a properly regulated market, and we work with a lot of the large sports leagues in Europe as well, including the Premier League. So we can use that experience to help US sports understand how they can best benefit from a betting regulated market.
Tom, paint the picture for us of 5-10 years' time in gaming online and sports gaming and betting in particular, how much of it will be dominated by the algorithms, the computers, the engineers who set up certain ways and means of making money, or how much will it still be the human wanting to place a bit of money to make things more exciting?
Sure. I mean, the majority of sports betting in Europe and the United Kingdom, to use the example of which we are expert, if you like, is it still people betting as a legitimate leisure activity? It's still mostly people wanting to enjoy the experience of betting on sport. And I see that continuing in the United States as well. I mean, I think it's very hard to predict in 5 years what the technology will look like. But as far as sports are concerned, we are explaining to them that this is a potential opportunity to increase fan engagement, but vitally it has to be for the benefit of sport. So sport has to be the centre of any regulatory solution. But it has to be betting that is done to protect the integrity of sport.
Tom Russell, it's been great getting your insight and expertise. Thank you very much indeed. General Counsel of Genius Sports, Tom Russell, thanks for joining us.